Welcome to the Lonely Marketers podcast. In this episode, I'm joined by Amy Tilbury from Barrington James. Amy's recruitment marketing career is going from strength to strength, with 2 promotions since joining the business 3 years ago. The work done by Amy and her team on TikTok specifically is a great case study on properly taking hold of a channel with a primary objective and working hard to get the results. Amy talks about being fearless as her reason for progression and likens herself to an octopus when it comes to managing a big, busy workload. She reckons her accent slips from professional into a native Crawley as this episode goes on. Let's see what you think. So, Amy, welcome to the TLM podcast. I always said the TLM when the T is the. So they're lonely marketers. It doesn't really make sense. But anyway, we're here and you're going to chat to me about your experiences both in recruitment marketing and some stuff from earlier in your career. I feel like you've got a cracking CV of like a nice blend of non-recruitment marketing experience and recruitment marketing experience, which is what we're really here to talk about. The starting point for me looking at your CV is, let's go straight into how does recruitment marketing differ from your prior experiences?
Well, first and foremost, thank you for having me on this. I've never done anything like this before, so it's all a learning curve. But yeah, I guess going straight into it, I think recruitment marketing for me is probably the most different type of marketing I've ever had to do. I think it varies so much from anything else that I've done, purely because I think there's not really like one area of focus. I think that's the difference. In terms of what I've done previously, I've worked in a blue chip company doing products marketing. I've done it at then an estate agent. So I then also do freelance graphic design as well. So recruitment marketing for me is like all of it thrown into one. You're kind of required to be, I always used to describe myself as like an octopus because you have to you have so many legs and so many arms. You have to just be able to juggle all kind of plates and all spectrum, across the whole spectrum within marketing. Like one day you can be going from doing podcasts and video editing to content creation, social media management. You're then obviously doing the strategy behind marketing and your core principles. But obviously it's very different to anything else because within other kind of industries and areas, you're kind of split down quite detailed into actually what you do. Like product marketing, you're working on actually promoting that product. Yeah. So it kind of forms into sort of advertising and your classic kind of 4 Ps: price, promotion, place.
Product.
Product.
Well, it's hard when you're in an industry when the product is humans, right? So I think we're all right. Forget that one.
So yeah, you kind of have your police, but yeah, and I think the industry as well, because it's so reliant on the sales industry anyway. Like you're in a supporting role, I think that's where it also differs as well. If you're kind of in a product marketing or a different sort of service, you're promoting that product and service. Obviously with recruitment, but you're so reliant on kind of that sales relationship to be able to then promote that. And I think the level, the kind of the stakeholders that you work with as well is kind of unrivaled in any other industry. You have to cater to the board, every single kind of recruitment team. And that doesn't just trickle down from like managers. It will go into the consultants and the junior consultants and the 180s and 360s. So I think it's also the stakeholder thing, that there's so many people kind of involved in what you do that they're the kind of the main differences.
Wow, you've given someone who's just stepped into a recruitment marketing job the full kind of list of things there. Not at a granular level, but at that middle and strategic level where the stakeholder thing, there's a money talks, right? A big biller who's a year into recruitment has got a loud voice in a recruitment agency. Marketing manager who's been there 3 years might not get listened to as much as that person, rightly or wrongly. So that variety, like you say, compared to other industries is one we all know. For me, that's nice in a way. It gives us a range of things today. the interesting one for me is your estate agency kind of experience. That's what I've always looked at and thought, is that the most similar to a recruitment scenario whereby, because the big one for me with recruitment marketing is the fact that you've got them two broad markets. You've got clients and candidates. Yeah. Is there any similarity there with estate agency marketing?
Yeah, I definitely think it is that it's the audiences, because you're trying to market to vendors to obviously put their house on the market with you. And then you're also marketing the houses to applicants and people that are looking to move. So, yeah, I think the industries is definitely probably the most similar in terms of what I've done. And you've definitely got those kind of comparisons. But I think it's the environment that differs, because I used to do it for my local branch. So, and that's obviously in a very, very small office, a team of kind of 10 people, and you kind of just solely work for the branch manager, lettings or sales, and then also the estate agents themselves. You're kind of working in parallel. So I think it's the scale of it is definitely one thing that I noticed, going from, even though I was still at a global company, it was still very much localized, whereas going into Barrington James, it's then on a sheer global scale, and it's kind of doing what I was doing, but replicated by kind of like 100, if not probably more.
Thousands. So you've been at Barrington James now for 3.5 years, or coming up to 3.5 years.
Yeah.
You've had 3 different job titles. So you're obviously progressing in your career at a rapid pace. I think that's impressive. So joining as an exec level person, moving into manager, and now senior marketing manager. A lot of people would struggle to achieve that in such a short space of time. Do you want to just talk us through how that progression's happened so fast? Is there any kind of milestones and landmarks that you can look back on as achievements that's allowed you to show the business you're more than the exec that you were brought in to be 3 years ago?
Yeah, I think definitely. I think I always look back to like my first day or first couple of weeks at Barrington James in comparison to what I do now, and the journey that I've kind of had is ridiculous. I literally was brought in to kind of do social media. Before me, we had a couple of people that did marketing, but they were kind of subsidiary. It was kind of comms, it was internal, it was just socials. It wasn't really kind of a core marketing function. And then she went off on maternity leave, and it was like, well, here you go, here's the reins. And I was like,
stuck
what?
in.
Yeah. I was like, oh my God, I've got to learn recruitment marketing. I've then got to learn life sciences. And obviously I'd only had kind of a couple of years experience prior to this. And I was like, blimey, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So I do look back at those first couple of weeks where I literally was like nothing against it, but I did just post on social media. Like I kind of transformed the way that we did social media. So it wasn't just your basic posting, but I think when I kind of started, not many companies have kind of adopted the whole Instagram kind of approach. And I mean, even TikTok wasn't like a thing back then. So I kind of took the social reins with 2 hands really. And I was like, right, we've got a brilliant brand. We don't communicate that enough. We're different. We want to be bold. So I was like, right, I'm just going to run with this and completely kind of change the way we look, the way we sound, our tone of voice, everything. Like, and I just kind of did that within my first couple of months. And then pretty quickly onto that, I think it was just the responsibilities that I just got myself stuck into quite quickly. I was like, hang on a second, like we're missing quite a few pieces of the clogs here. And I'm not kind of an expert in recruitment marketing, but kind of learning outside and using my network. I was like, hang on, we've got some big pieces that we need. And I think secondary to that kind of came like website. I think for me, that was the real kind of upgrade in my role, because quite quickly I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to do website, which is going to be a big project for us. Yeah. I mean, you should have seen our last website. That was interesting. So it was going for like a big step, and it was like, hang on a minute. Well, I'm going to need someone that's going to kind of come in and take over the social media side of things that I have built that was successful. We were bringing in applicants. Like it was really core to our like business kind of pillars. So it should never be overlooked as just social, because it's so important as a business. And then, when I was able to kind of bring on my first hire, who I still work with today, and she's stuck by me. So I think that's always a telling thing. Yeah. But kind of being able to go on that journey, build out a team was definitely like a big milestone for me. And kind of that website was then where it's like, hang on, this is the strategy that then kind of comes with the website. And it's then looking at your B2B channels and actually connecting with your clients and bringing in those inbound leads, looking at the candidate pool and kind of increasing candidates that were applying to jobs. And I think then that was where the role kind of really changed for me.
Yeah.
In terms of that kind of awareness with the board and kind of that connection to be like, hang on, this is where we can like implement our strategy. And then off the back of everything that I've kind of been putting into motion over the last couple of years, still ongoing, there's always more to do and we've got a long way to go still. But I think just having that voice to be able to push things upwards and not kind of be afraid to be like, hang on a second, this is great what we're doing, but we need to do this instead. And here's the focus. And I think just kind of keeping that responsibility, like I take on a lot of stuff. And I think just being able to have that responsibility has made me kind of have that visibility upwards and be able to kind of achieve the promotions that I've been able to do.
Yeah. So you've seen things that need an owner and you've taken ownership.
Yeah.
So I think what you've explained there is really, obviously really impressive. As marketers, we tend to have to prove the worth of a channel for the channel. It sounds like you took social and proved the worth of social for yourself as a marketer and say, right, give me that one thing, or actually I'm going to take this one thing, I'm going to prove it works, but then I'm going to show you that that's only one cog in the marketing aspect. Now give me the next one. And lo and behold, the next one is arguably what the centerpiece would be. We all love a website project.
Yeah. Got another one.
It keeps recruitment marketing website vendors in a job, right? Because we all love changing them every few years.
Yeah, exactly that.
Is that on the horizon again?
Yeah, unfortunately so. I mean, not unfortunately. I think it's one of those where going into something the first time, I'd only been at Barrington James maybe 9-10 months, I think.
Yeah.
Like, not really very established. And it was like, well, here's a website. And I was like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. But I think it was just going kind of full frontal into that and being also given the autonomy with it to be like, right, like just have a go with things was a really big learning curve for me. And kind of now knowing all the mistakes I made in the first place, I now exactly know how the kind of the next roadmap when we come to do our new website is going to look. So if anything, it set me up for the next kind of website, which is going to be bigger, better. And I'm looking forward to that, knowing kind of what the potential is with my knowledge and my skill set now. I'm like, this is going to be brilliant. And this is going to be really long standing for like the next few years at least.
Yeah, you had something where it needed doing and anything was better than what you had. This time around, your level of experience, your understanding of how channels influence each other, and it's almost that centerpiece upgrade then for all the good work you're doing on other channels. The fact that Barrington James, the life sciences thing, I want to dig into how you've been so successful on social. So impressive numbers, and whether we argue the vanity metrics or not, I believe you guys are actually tracking candidate generation, placement level stuff from stuff like TikTok, which a lot of people aspire to. A lot of people want to jump on that bandwagon, but I don't think you just dipped your toes in the water. You literally went at it and you're achieving something and you're continuing to do that. You talk us through how you managed to do that, because that's not an easy thing.
Yeah, so TikTok is controversial anyway, and probably our TikTok page is also controversial in the kind of the content that we post. But I think for us, when I came into the business, the core objectives for us was growth, headcount growth, new offices, and bringing in internal candidates. That was the biggest pillar. That was the biggest pillar for us as a business. And since then, we've nearly pretty much, I think we've tripled in headcount since I've joined. And I'd like to attribute a big part of that to our social presence. So at first it was obviously Instagram, and that was the kind of the rage. And even now I'm still seeing accounts that aren't necessarily on Instagram and it's not a focus for them, but obviously all businesses have got different objectives. But then it was like TikTok kind of came onto the scene and we were just like, right, let's just give this a go. We didn't really have too much kind of early success with it. I think we didn't know what to kind of post, or it was kind of received not too positively internally either. It was a little bit like, oh, what's this? It's a new platform. What if our clients see this? How is it going to be received? And we were a little bit like tiptoeing on eggshells with it. I think for us, like any recruitment company is probably a little bit controversial. We're like estate agents. So the mirror and the reputation is the exact same way. Like no one particularly likes us. So
we're all here to change that reputation though, right?
Exactly. But I think it's I think the thing is it's then like actually like what we do as a company and in recruitment in general that is so different to other office jobs. Because as I said, the incentives that we've got aren't, you're not going to get that in kind of a state agency or vice versa. So we just found that we had loads of things that embody our culture, that celebrate us as a business. And I hate the term like unapologetic, but that is kind of who we are. We're very good at what we do, and the ways that we do it, they work. So let's celebrate that on TikTok and actually show how recruitment works and what goes on. So we just kind of went with it, and we found kind of our niches with it, showing the incentives and none of that stuff was really on TikTok before. So we got quite a few viral videos from it, mixed reviews, some good, some bad. It comes with socials. But we just went with it, and we were experiencing some massive growth with it. And we kind of tweaked our strategy with it to be really kind of aimed at actually getting people to work for us. And if people like that sort of content and that's the culture that they want to be involved in, well, here it is in video form. Like if we're bringing people through interview and they don't know what kind of recruitment is, they don't know the culture, let's show them that on video. So our talent acquisition.
Yeah, stop wasting waste their time on your TA team's time.
Exactly, because the turnover rate in recruitment is high anyway. It's a hard industry to get into and a hard one to kind of be successful in. So we just found that let's actually show people what we are about, and across our offices as well. That's something that worked really well because we've got quite a few offices. So we wanted to be able to show different offices what the culture looked like and etc. in different places. And yeah, we just had so much success with it. We were just receiving application after application, and I can always tell if so I don't do this as much as the social work anymore as what I did. I always kind of help with the strategy, but Lizzie, our social media executive, is brilliant with it. She's found her kind of niche with it. She found her humor, and she's just run with it, and she's created that perfect tone of voice. And I can always tell if there's a video that's gone viral because our inbox for then job applications just goes through the roof. And I'm like, we had another viral video. So
it's interesting because that's hard to plan, right? Like you can't time your most engaging post at the time you need to hire the most. You've just got to keep doing this, right? And then if good applications come through, I suppose you would always entertain interviews in the industries we're in. But it's really interesting that you've got someone constantly working on that, and then you get these peaks when the content resonates more so than when you're advertising a job.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just one of those. And I think it is that viral and awareness thing. So sometimes obviously not necessarily will receive the best kind of caliber of candidate through TikTok. And it can't always be really specific. Like we will get random locations in the middle of like nowhere, but we've actually hired from TikTok. And I think that for us, we don't obviously spend money on TikTok or advertisement that way. It is just a time thing. But I think with the amount of hires that we've had from it, we were able to confidently say that that's been a really good return on investment. And those hires have lasted with us as well. So they're good on the turnover too, that they're not just coming in and leaving. And I feel like that is because they've got a real idea of who we are, what we actually do. Yeah. So the culture or the atmosphere isn't kind of necessarily a shock, which I think sometimes if you bring people through the traditional interview route and then they kind of actually see the environment that is energetic and it is lively and it's tough, and people kind of get maybe a little bit shocked by it if it's not.
Yeah. I think back to interviews I've had where, albeit for marketing jobs, you were interviewed and then shown around the sales floor. Mm-hmm. And I think that was almost a way for them to show you that this is what working here is like. But whenever someone was being interviewed, everyone was on the best behavior if they saw a stranger walking down the sales floor. So it didn't give a true representation. No. What I really like about that is that you're doing that way before they've even come in. So anyone worth the salt doing research would come across that content, start to paint that picture, because marketing often focuses on getting the conversion or getting the application, and what can be challenging about that. And I see this now kind of marketing software more than recruitment businesses is if you just focus on getting more through the door, it's not, sorry, my dog's barking in the background there.
It's all right.
I'm just going to have to tell him to shut up in a minute. I think something's trying to be delivered.
I was about to say, postman.
Challenges of recording with children and pets. It's that aspect that you can drive more conversions, but it's a numbers game then, rather than are we educating people? Sometimes reduce the numbers, but have the right people apply or convert is critical, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it just comes. I think for us, it's a case of like as many people through the door. We always said that we wanted to get to a point where we're turning applications away. I think that for us as a business is fantastic to be able to be like, right, we're really picky now. We know exactly kind of the type of person that we want to work for us. And those kind of the applications come through in some really high volumes. And then to be able to be like, actually, like, even if they are from the area, even if they're still not good enough, then unfortunately, like, we're able to be in that position to turn people away. And I've always been a believer in all exposure is good exposure. I think no matter what, no one is going to be everyone's cup of tea all the time. Like, you're going to be subjected to those types of comments, especially on TikTok. TikTok is the most anonymous platform, and you can just, anyone can create an account and just troll someone. So I think when we started getting a few negative comments, we were like, bit panicky, don't kind of like this. But then we did just tweak our strategy to actually be like, right, well, this is recruitment and what we actually get up to. And it's always going to be a mixed bag. But as long as we've got the kind of the applications coming through and we're building brand awareness and we're connecting with our audiences, then that's fine for us. I think as well, we've kind of tweaked it so we make sure that we're getting like our podcast shorts and YouTube clips from kind of industry stuff on there as well. It might not be kind of the best performing content, but it's still a brilliant way to showcase actually, well, this is what we're going on about some cool subjects as well, which obviously life science. It's obviously it's clinical, it's quite professional. So I think when we're talking about things like AI and robotics and stuff like that, machine learning, then that's also some really cool content to get into the filters as well, to sort of say, well, actually, we're not just recruitment. This is actually what we're doing on the life science side of things. Yeah. And we're actually supporting people within healthcare. Like that for us is the thing.
It's an important sector, right? And I think that brings us on to the different approaches from marketing. So you've got a podcast. You were pretty instrumental or single-handed launched the podcast. I'm not quite sure how it came about, but the podcast, tell us about the podcast, because I think, it feels like everyone, ironically, we're on a podcast. It feels like everyone's doing podcasts for perhaps podcast's sake. I think every market has got space for one, though, if it's done correctly. Just give us a bit of background about how yours came to be, successes you've had, and what the state of play is with the podcast now.
Yeah, so I think for us, we were looking at kind of the content that we were putting out there and obviously the content kind of strategy. And of course, that kind of, you go through the tick list of what you're doing and what you're not doing. And podcast was obviously one that we weren't doing. We did initially kind of go down the sort of the Women in Life Science podcast, which was great, a great segment and something that's always really important to me to talk about. But again, there is so many of them that is kind of quite a classic topic. So we were kind of looking at things, and then we've got an AI practice, artificial intelligence, and he actually kind of came to us and sort of said, well, I think there's a bit of a gap in the market for this. There's not too many AI focused recruitment companies, and that's a big niche of ours and a massive area that will continue to grow over the next few years. That's all anyone is talking about, AI. And we just thought that's a massive gap for us. And he was really passionate about it as well. And I think that's always what's handy. If you've got someone that's passionate about doing it rather than just doing something for the sake of it, it's going to come across that way. And his whole team were really passionate about it as well. And they've really enjoyed going out and speaking to clients or candidates. And some of the conversations that we've had have been so interesting. We've really kind of brought on a whole mix of people. I think there was someone the other day that we were speaking to that had actually grown up in a tribe and then came on to talk about how he was living in a tribe to learning quantum computing. So the stories are,
Wow.
yeah, so the stories are brilliant, but no, not single-handedly. We've got an amazing team. I mean, we're a small team here, but again, Lizzie, her skill set is fantastic, and she's been instrumental in putting the podcast together. She's fantastic on like After Effects and Premiere. Like, she can do some amazing things. So I mean,
you sound like me with my colleague, where I'm like, yeah, Premiere Pro and yeah, it's almost like we see like people outside marketing talking about us as like, you just do that stuff. It almost gets like that with our colleagues, where they've got that niche skill set.
Exactly, and she's got such a unique skill set. So she's been amazing at putting them together, and as well the AI director Richard. Again, it is that partnership. I think marketers sometimes need to rely on those types of partnerships to make something a success. I could probably sit here and try and kind of take control of the process and go out and get the guests and have myself speak to them, but it's not going to have anywhere near as much value, rather than getting our consultants to get involved and having those conversations. And as well, with an area like AI, it's still relatively new. So it's only going to help their experience as well, and really differentiate themselves as market experts. And listening to the conversations, they know their stuff. Like, and this is some really technologically advanced, but I can't say it. I was going to say
you did all right.
And this is some really techie stuff and some techie terms.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really good way to get them involved in marketing, and we've had some great success with it as well. And it's that ROI. Everyone says it, but for a marketer, you do have to look at the ROI, especially when your time and resources are very sort of far spread. So you do have to look at that. And I think it's not a case to be like, oh, we wanted to get an instant win from one podcast. It's about relationship building. It's about positioning ourselves within the market. It's going to take time. And I think we've maybe done 5 or 6 now. I think we've recorded a couple more that are scheduled for the next couple of weeks, but we're now getting kind of client requests to either come on the podcast or learn about our recruitment services. We've booked a couple of client meetings in off the back of them that we're in talks with now. So again, it's like the ROI will come from them, and they will be demonstrated, but it's not just solely, I think marketing, a lot of the kind of conversation at the moment is about numbers and it is about that sort of stuff. But I think at the same time, it is also on the relationships, and it is a little bit more long-standing than the initial kind of recruitment experience. It's to know that what we're doing now might have an effect in 2-3 months, if not longer. So for us, it's a little bit more of a learning. It's a bit more of a kind of a journey.
I think in the type of sectors you operate, and this is true of many sectors, the best and most successful recruiters over the long term are the relationship builders. They're not transactional. And they're the ones where the alignment to a marketer's mentality, I think, knit together really well, because they know they're not just going to record someone on a podcast and suddenly have 10 inquiries worth 30, 40 grand. Yeah, it doesn't work like that. But they know that because prior to having the support of a marketer helping them with a podcast or whatever it might be, they've done that naturally anyway. So I think the alignment of sales and marketing and recruitment often gets looked at as, the polarized opposites. Sales just want everything now. That's true to an extent, but I do think there's plenty of people who we work with as colleagues that we can align to, and that's where the real success is going to come from. You've covered a lot of different things there. You've got different audiences with people you're trying to attract on TikTok. You've got a podcast running to end client and candidate attraction. That could snowball over time. I think that epitomizes what a recruitment marketer ends up trying to do. You're spinning a lot of plates. You describe yourself as the marketing octopus. So with that varied range of things, how do you go about prioritizing the work of your marketing function? Do you have any methods and processes that you stick to keep things on track?
Yeah, so I think that's something that I've definitely been looking into over the last 6 months. I think I'm not afraid to sort of say prior to that, it was a little bit chaotic. We were kind of pulled here, there and everywhere. I always say that I'm really organized, but unorganized but organized. And as long as I don't know if it even makes sense, but that is just kind of me as a person.
You know your priorities, but perhaps everything isn't like granular, time boxed.
Yeah, it's not. It's just I've just never been able to work that way, but still been able to always get everything done way before deadlines to a very high standard. So I must be doing something right. So I'm going to go with the method. But I think obviously now as the team is growing and the business is growing, I have had to look at the approach and just be like, actually, our time is not kind of best spent here, and we're getting pulled into XYZ task over here because someone requires a logo putting onto something that kind of then falls into that's marketing category. So I think it's kind of been a big learning curve for me over the last 6 months to actually really look at the structure and look at our roles and responsibilities. And I think 6 months ago, even a little bit longer, I would probably say 40% of what we were doing wasn't recruitment marketing. And that was when I kind of had to have the conversations to be like, I'm working on this and this, but this isn't going to have kind of a direct benefit in any way, shape or form to the company in terms of what I'm doing. This is more admin-based stuff. Yeah. And it was really well received and it was great. And we were able to put some supporting functions in place, which were able to take a lot of that stuff off of our hands, which was brilliant. And then I was sat there with all this free time and I was thinking, I could get used to this. I
bet it didn't last long.
No, didn't last long at all. And then quite quickly I was able to really look at the strategic part of marketing, and that's probably something that is really new to me over the last kind of few months, actually looking at the strategy behind everything that we're doing and breaking it back all the way down to kind of step one and what are our objectives, who are our audience, who do we need to get involved, and what resources do we need.
Yeah.
And that's the sort of the starting point, and then working our way up to that kind of end result, which is probably something that I've never really kind of looked at, to be honest. Like the business hasn't been at that point, but now we're really looking at the campaigns that we're putting out there, especially when website comes. We're really kind of looking to join up with the marketing loop. And I think, as I said, like I'm not one to kind of be afraid to sit here and say I had many pieces of the puzzle, but the puzzle was all over the floor. I think that's the only way to put it. But yeah, and now being able
the puzzle's always changing as well.
It's always changing. Yeah, it wasn't a one piece fits all either.
No, it rarely is. I think it's always that balance. I think we've already touched on earlier, or I've mentioned that's what keeps it interesting, keeps it entertaining. But yeah, you always want to be more on the side of more of it's together than not when the new stuff lands. But yeah, I share a similar experience where I'd love to be more organised. But the time it takes to get organised, I could be doing something more valuable.
Yeah, and that's it. And it's just been looking at everything that goes on in the process to make things kind of more strategic. And I think as well, kind of like embodying the kind of the confidence to my team as well to kind of push back on things.
Yeah.
I think I was always the pusher backer and I had no problem pushing back on things. I take immense amount of pride when I push back on things. But they kind of weren't.
It's not easy, that. Like,
no, it's not.
I've done it today, right before this call. Someone's asked me to put something that's on a URL, a link. Can I have it on a PDF? Because one of my clients asked for it in PDF. And I'm like, I feel bad. I could literally create the PDF. But I had to not forcefully to the person, to my colleague, force myself to have the balls to just go, no, I'm not turning that into a PDF. It's a link so you can update it if stuff changes. If they want a PDF, they can right click and save as PDF.
Yeah. But that's
you still feel shitty about it though.
But that is it. And I think that's the thing as well for me, like my conscience. I think I've got a really good relationship with the sales floor, but that's also kind of come as a little bit of a detriment to things, because they'll come to us with anything and anything. We're really relied upon and we're really efficient and our stuff is good. But sometimes it's like you've got to put those like boundaries in place with people and be able to push back. And those deadlines are a massive thing. Rather than sort of saying, when do you need this by? It's now me saying, I can get this to you by then, and just flipping it. And I like getting that into the team dynamic as well has also been amazing, which is really good to kind of see on that personal development side of things. And like being that mentor to a team is something that's super important to me. So when they ask me, "Oh, can you check this email and make sure that it's not too like strongly worded?" I'll be like, "No, it's perfect. Send it." Like it's got the right balance of pushback.
Well, that's the right kind of mentor, isn't it? They'll like encourage them to do it, and then double down on that when you see they're going about it in the right way.
Yeah,
it's empowering.
And they love it. They all come to me and be like, "Oh, do you want to see my pushback?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like proud mum. So yeah, it's a nice thing.
The pusher-backer, chief pusher-backer. I think it's critical because there are that many different things to do. A big focus of mine in this current series of recording with recruitment marketers is, you know, we always talk about the stuff that gets thrown at marketing that is just wild and random. But in recruitment marketing specifically, I see two that I just can't get on board with. I've experienced it myself. I've talked to other people about it, and I just cannot get on board with how it's recruitment marketing. And it's not everywhere. So when I ask you, you might turn around and say, "No, we don't have that problem."
Okay.
So sorting out CV databases. So they tend to come hand in hand with job board advertising. That's a different thing. I can understand marketing's involvement there, but CV databases and LinkedIn licenses.
Oh, okay. I feel like I'm good at my job now because no, they are not. They're not in my category. I think.
And the reason I'm asking people about it on this series is I kind of see it as we need to back each other as recruitment marketers and build confidence that if you're spending time involved in what I class as sales enablement, as in I will pay for you to get access to something that will make your job easier, that should not be a cost for marketing, not necessarily in terms of out of marketing's budget, but someone from the marketing function having to do the whatever it is to coordinate all that stuff. So it's nice to hear you're on board with my thinking.
I was scared then. I was like, "Oh no, what have I been doing?
What am I doing?"
Years. But no, I think for me, it's actually really funny because I think in my first few weeks, I did ask about job boards. I think I'd seen online, because I've been in the Lonely Marketers for pretty much my whole recruitment marketing experience as soon as I came across the group I joined. And I think I remember people speaking about it in there. And I think I went to my director at the time and I was like,
should I be doing this?
I think I should be looking after job boards. And he was like, "No, you shouldn't." And I was like, okay. So yeah, I'm glad that I do not fall into that trap. But I completely agree with you. I think just knowing how much else we've got to do and what impact is that sort of stuff going to have on the business, it doesn't. So it shouldn't be anywhere near marketing. So if anyone's on job boards, get that off your job description.
Yeah, I've no doubt that like marketers should be able to help their sales colleagues when it comes to how to write an advert, best practice, and whether it's providing helping with training, facilitating training, sending them on copywriting courses specifically for recruitment advertising. So someone like Mitch Sullivan, who's a copywriter for writing job adverts, encourage them to follow him and read his information on his website, but actually sitting and negotiating contracts for media allocation that often it has been the decision of a sales team or continues to be. I'm always on the fence about the level of involvement. The LinkedIn licenses to just find people and CV database access, I'm like, that should never be in a marketer's remit.
No.
There might be partnerships with operations and split responsibility, but never solely the marketer. So you're in the right place as far as I'm concerned.
I'm doing something.
And that's good. So it's not positioned in that way. I think we've talked a lot about we've talked quite a lot about strategic stuff, but also tactical. So some of these you might have kind of answered already, but I want to frame it in a slightly different way, just to give listeners are like, "Oh, right, yeah, you feel like that too. You've empowered me to suck it off." So two splits to this. What one marketing tactic do you see recruitment marketers, other recruitment companies and competitors perhaps doing that you think is totally pointless, that you should just sack it off and put your time elsewhere? Is the one standout that you just look at and shake your head every time you see peers spending time on it?
Oh yeah, I saw something the other day. I won't name names. I'm trying to actually think what it was. Oh, I don't know. I think for me, I don't know why, but I do see them all the time, and I think it's just newsletters. I don't know why. I'm just personally, I just think I don't know, because I'm not the audience for them, and I can't say that I spend an awful amount of time like writing newsletters. And I think people might just be thinking, oh God, I've got to get my next newsletter out. But I just think the amount of time that goes into them, unless you've got the formatting right where it doesn't really take up so much time. But I do see some that are so lengthy, and I do think, like, how on earth have you got the time to write that sort of stuff, unless you're obviously pulling it from sales floors and bits and pieces. But I do just think, like, no one reads it. I
don't have many folders in my email, but the one that says newsletters is 300 and odd unread.
I think every company will always have them, and you kind of you'll put stuff out there. But I think it's the ones that are just so, like, really, really expansive, and they just kind of just get put out everywhere. But I just know that they can be such a priority for, like, at board level as well. And I think I've kind of had that. I think at one point I had conversations to be like, oh, well, can you get a life science newsletter for every single market area out every month? I was like, no.
No, I can't.
No.
That's good. But back to the ability to say no.
Well, that's the thing. It's just like, well, that would be my whole job, I think, to be honest, if I'm writing that amount of stuff for every single industry. And we're pretty expansive as well. So I was like, no.
Yeah, because there's a new one next week and a new one the week after. So it's chasing your tail.
Yeah. So I just think that for me, it's just a bit like, it's just, I don't know. I think it's just a bit pointless.
Get rid of it.
Yeah, get rid.
Flip side of that, what's the one thing you see and think, people are just not doing enough? Double down on that, because we can see it's working. Why have you not got a focus on it?
Yeah, so I think it is just like really, I think it's the conversation about actually going into the client. I think quite a lot at the moment I see marketing from other recruitment companies that is really kind of tone of voice heavy, focused on, we do this and we do that and we are the best thing since sliced bread. And I think it's that messaging, and this is something that I've adopted and I'm trying to transition away from, is that kind of the key selling points. I think it is more emphasis now, because the market is tougher, is that emphasis on the client, and it is that more the empathy in the client shoe, because clients obviously don't, if they don't have to use recruiters, they won't. They'll want to do everything kind of internal within their own acquisition teams, and it's only kind of as a bit of a last resort that they get recruiters to come in, or they don't have the capabilities. So I think the major shift, and I think that's something that I'm definitely going to be doing more of, and I think other companies should, is that actual emphasis on the client and what they actually want out of it, and that sort of tone and voice and positioning. I think any messaging that is kind of focused around, like, we're the best and we've filled this many roles, and these are our services. I just think it's got to go deeper than that now.
Yeah, you're just all arguing. We're the best. No, we're the best. And they go on to the next website. We've got 1 million.
Yeah.
We've got 2 million.
Well, everyone will say that they're the best at what they do, but it's like proof is in the pudding. Like, how are you going to make that difference to that client? Like, what are the pain points at the moment? And actually addressing those issues, rather than their whole marketing strategy and campaign focused around them as a business.
Well, if you're nailing your messaging, there's an argument to say that that's got to be the middle piece. Like, the website and the technical aspects is all one thing, but if you nail the messaging, your conversion rate, regardless of everything else, is going to improve. And also the awareness of who you are and what you do, substantiate it with some, I don't know, social proof, testimonials, case studies.
Yeah.
Tell them how you can help them, rather than saying we're the best, because like you said, no one believes you.
It's just that positioning. Oh, I just thought of another pet peeve as well, which was what I was going to go with, but then I forgot.
Yeah, let's have it.
Recruiter awards. Right.
I nearly swore then.
So I think for me, and we've never done the whole pay a load of money to get given an award.
Whoa! Disclaimer: we don't know that that's how it works.
Is it not? Is it not? No, I think
I think the fact that you've got to pay to enter and then pay to attend, and I'm not suggesting I'm like generalizing. There's probably better awarding bodies or companies that do these things. There's probably some that are better than others, but in my experience, you pay to enter, and it's if you suddenly can't make it on the night and don't therefore pay for a table. I've never seen anyone not go and win an award.
I think how I came across it is I was looking at some other recruitment companies' websites, and I went into their like testimonials bit, and they probably had about 30 like the little logos that said that they like won these awards, and it was things like happiest workplace or like safest workplace, and I was like, who even like embodies these like awards and things? Don't get me wrong, I think there's some brilliant kind of bodies out there that really do go into the depths of what you do as a company and the services that you provide, and things like representing kind of women in the board or women that have made significant strides within recruitment. Those types of awards I think are brilliant, and I think they're really trusted, and a lot of clients as well will look at that sort of stuff that is kind of tangible. But I do think there are some that are just a little bit bogus, and
I think it becomes like you're taking it in turns with your competitors to win some of these. Either taking it in turns or, like you say, they become, what else can we award someone for?
Yeah.
So best recruitment company, that's great. Well, how can we get more out of this? Well, let's make it best in this niche, best in this headcount. And you end up with like 50 different awards. So it's like a school sports day. Everyone gets a medal.
Yeah.
No one leaves disappointed.
Here is a medal. Yeah, I just think for me it's just like that. I just don't think they hold as much credibility as kind of what they used to. I do think there's some good ones out there, but yeah, we don't really do them, to be honest. I think the proof is in your service, not necessarily the award that you're given.
I'd rather hear from another customer and you tell me you can give Dave a call and he'll tell you what service we give than see.
I don't think I've ever opted for. I don't think if I've ever been between two potential solutions, I don't think the differing factor has ever been, oh well, they won that award, so they must be good. I've always looked at actually doing the due diligence and asking people their reputation, their testimonials, their case studies, and I think that's how you're going to make the difference in business.
Yeah. I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, I'm glad. And I was like, oh no, I thought it's a really good one that I was really going in on the other day, and it was awards. So,
do you know what? It's potentially controversial to the wider recruitment world, but I think it'll be music to the ears of a lot of recruitment marketers that get sucked into spending days and weeks writing awards entries. And some people probably listening thinking, well, we see it as really important, and that's fair enough. If you can substantiate and show it makes a difference, even if it's an internal, our marketing team's great because they enable us to win awards, that can be a positive. I'm with you on the fact that there are far more important things a marketer could be doing to kind of move the needle.
I think as well, it's if you're facing kind of that pressure from board level as well. I think sometimes like board members can be quite sort of caught up about those sort of things as well, and being like, we have to go for this award and we have to go for that award. So yeah, I guess if there's anyone listening that is kind of under that pressure to be writing the long entries and pay a lot of money to get those kind of things, again, I think that's something that could definitely be pushed back on. Again, it's just always, I think ROI will always come into it, and if you can demonstrate that award has been able to get you some sort of business. I think it's hard to prove, but you can obviously look at the numbers and see if there's been massive differences or things like that. But again, it's a tricky one to kind of measure.
It's a funny one, that, right? When it's your idea, you get asked, what's the ROI on that? But if it's the director's idea to go in and win an award, they're probably not asking you the question, what's the ROI?
No, exactly.
They're probably just going, oh, that's nice. Anyway, we could go on about that one, I think. It might spark a nice debate in the WhatsApp group. Let's put it that way when we release this.
Let's go for it. We like just, I don't think the thing is me. I was like, oh God, I feel like I'm under pressure to kind of go along with things. But I don't know, if I've got things that annoy me, I think I've got the confidence to say it.
Well, I think that goes back to your progression and stuff. Like, let's just... hit people between the eyes. Let's not waste time. Let's do the stuff that's working. Last few are nice and jovial questions. We just get some information about you outside of the recruitment stuff, broader marketing base. So we always start with, what's a technology that you couldn't live without? So this can cross work life, personal life, but something that if someone said, I'm taking that off you tomorrow, you'd be like, fuck.
Yeah, my MacBook. It's got to be the MacBook. I think for me, so I do freelance work as well.
How do you find time?
So I actually did it before Barrington James, and it actually kind of helped me get the job. So I started a branding and graphic design business before Barrington James. I'd gone traveling during COVID, forced to come back because the whole country shut down. Didn't have a job, and the job market was tough. And I did think, well, rather than sit there, I mean, it was great weather, so I could have just sat outside in the sun for the foreseeable. I started my design business, and I've done it ever since. Like it goes in peaks and troughs. Like sometimes I'm really busy and I just can't keep it up. But if I'm being honest, it's pretty much always on the go. I don't really ever not have kind of clients. And I love doing it as well. It's a passion. Yeah. It's more creative. And I think now I'm in the position where I am, it's more strategy. So sometimes it's actually quite nice to go back to the creative side of things and just be sitting there. So yeah, if my MacBook got taken tomorrow, I would probably cry. I think my office would then shut down. So
interesting. Which might blend into this next question, might not. What's your favourite brand?
Yeah, so when you sent me the question for these, I actually had to think.
I never sent you the questions. These are on the spot. You've not had time.
Sorry, I messed up.
Let's just clarify that the rest of the questions, other than these end ones, have not been scripted or prepared, right?
Not prepared in any way.
You got a heads up on these ones, though. So favourite brand.
So part of the inner Crawley in me was going to come out with Aldi, because I was like, I love to do my food shop at Aldi, and I do love their marketing as well.
I've got some Aldi flip-flops.
Yeah, I'm
a big brand advocate.
I think their social presence as well, like the beef with M&S is always like entertaining there. They jump on the trends and they are quite humorous. So, and they do a cheap weekly food shop, so I can't complain.
Yeah.
Another one, I like Monzo's as well. I think everyone likes Monzo's, but again, I think it's just the freedom that they have, even though they're kind of like they're a financial entity. So if you saw your kind of Barclays or Nationwide doing that sort of stuff, you'd be a bit like, what? But kind of Monzo's kind of capitalized on the younger generation with banking, and I think their messaging is just nail on the head, really.
Nice. Least favourite brand? What brand proper annoys you?
Right, Jet2 Holidays. I know.
Second in 2 days that I've said Jet2.
It's the Jet.
Oh no, sorry. I've had someone discuss EasyJet. They said EasyJet.
Oh, I like EasyJet. I don't mind EasyJet.
It's funny, isn't it? Like people have got a preference on budget airlines, and they're all shit.
Yeah, they are all crap. But yeah, I don't know. Jet2 Holidays. It's the cheesy song, and it's the holding the hands. I feel like, and they still play it as well. And I'm kind of like, well, you've definitely spent your entire marketing budget for 5 years on this
royalty,
but they're still going. They just change the people that are holding hands and things. So yeah.
And finally, what's your favourite swear word? What do you use when stuff's getting tough, or when you think something?
I do feel like look, I've lost my podcast voice now. I think the inner Crawley. As soon as I mentioned Aldi, I've let my whole facade flip down. I had to say, I was like, oh god, my voice isn't posh enough to go on one of these podcasts.
Listen to me. I'm from Lancashire.
No, it's Crawley. Nothing. I love Crawley. I'm born and bred in Crawley, and I will never say anything bad about Crawley. But yeah, a bit of a potty mouth. So I will literally sit there every day saying, fuck, bloody hell, what the fuck is this? I am quite bad, but I sit in the corner so people don't hear me. It's literally just the tea.
Is that why you sit in the corner? People have told you to go and sit over there.
Oh, it might be now. They do move me from corner to corner, but it's funny because now I sit outside my MD's office. And it's quite funny because every now and then he will just slowly shut the door, and I'm like, oh no, I've been too loud.
By the third profanity of the day, the door becomes closed. So you're going with fuck.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a popular choice.
It's got to be. I don't know. Otherwise, I'm just there saying, what the fuck? But it's how you use the word fuck as well. It's not just fuck. So I just put it into every single.
Yeah, it can be very expressive, can't it? There's loads of different contexts for it. So yeah, it's a good one.
It's the classic.
Thank you so much for your time. I think there's just lots of value in what you've said. I think people listening will share a lot of what you've said in terms of their own experiences. But as we know, with the TLM group and then the wider following on LinkedIn, and hopefully the people, transfer from them to areas to listening to these, I think you've given people like loads of food for thought on what they should be doing, what they shouldn't be doing, how to structure their day jobs. It doesn't have to be perfect, but have some level of organisation. So really appreciate you spending the time to talk to us. I've enjoyed it. Hope you have too, and it wasn't as daunting as you perhaps thought.
I was actually really scared. I was like, I don't like talking about myself, but I did kind of feel I'm at a really critical stage now in my career where we were obviously talking about it before, but yeah, the kind of the next sort of step up into like a real leadership position for me. So I think just being able to kind of offer any insight to people that might have found themselves in kind of my shoes if they're just starting out, I think my story is quite a good one to listen to. And yeah, definitely not perfect in any way, shape or form. It's chaotic, but I think that's just me as a person, to be honest.
Cool. And if listeners want to connect with you, want to contact you, LinkedIn the best place?
Yeah, definitely LinkedIn. Like, I'm always happy to answer any questions, always jumping on calls with people if they have any questions and things like that. I think it's really important to network in the community and kind of build those alliances. Because I think the thing is with our network and community is that we're all trying to do like the same thing, but different ways. And it's not kind of like a big competitive sort of thing.
Yeah. One of us doing well isn't putting the other one down. We might as well all lift each other up. I totally agree.
Yeah. So yeah, feel free to pop me a message on LinkedIn.
Amy, on that note, we'll close it off. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you. No problem at all.
Thank you for listening to the Lonely Marketers podcast. If you would like to join like-minded recruitment marketers in our WhatsApp group, visit the LinkedIn page and scan the QR code in the banner. This podcast is created by the team at Pager. For more information about how Pager can help build personal brands for your recruiters and scale your content distribution efforts, visit pager.co. PAIGER.co. You can find me on LinkedIn if you'd like to connect for more content about recruitment marketing.